All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of our 2Connect program podcast. I'm joined here with two of our mentors for the coaching as well as 2Excel. So if y'all would like to introduce yourselves, my name is Paolo. I'm the program assistant for 2Connect.
Josue Sorto, 2Excel mentor.
Lorraine Lopez, a peer coach with Student Success Coaching Program.
Cool. And today we're here to talk about jobs and internships, so kind of sharing our experiences and any resources that might be beneficial for you as students to find jobs and internships, whether that's during the summer, as you're finishing up your second year, you'll be going into your third year. So finding things that could help you find the path to graduation and find your kind of get your feet wet in what it is that you would like to do. So I guess we can start by just introducing ourselves, letting them know a little bit about yourself, what you do, and any of your experiences with jobs and internships.
So this is Lorraine again. I am a fifth-year senior from Revelle College. I'm from a rural agricultural community located in the San Joaquin Central Valley near Fresno. My major is International Studies, Political Science with an emphasis in Latin America, and I have minored also in business with a mini concentration in organizational behavior. I am a peer mentor currently for Student Success Peer Coaching, and last year I worked as a civic engagement intern at the Raza Resource Centro, a campus community center.
Josue again. I'm a fourth-year Warren College student. I'm a theater major from South Central Los Angeles, and oh man, where haven't I worked on campus? I've worked at 64 Degrees. I've worked at Oasis for many different positions. I've worked at the calling center, and for those of you who work there, I apologize. Lol.
So again, thank you for introducing yourself. So I guess to start the conversation, obviously you both have your own experiences in a lot of different fields of things that you've done. So what were some of the resources you've used, or kind of how did you get to find those positions?
So for the current position, it was basically word of mouth. I heard about the job, and then I applied on Port Triton. For the position at the Centro, I frequented the space, and I saw the interns in action and heard about the various internships available, so I applied. I did not get the position I applied for. I wasn't sad, but I was offered a different position, and this is a really good point to make because sometimes what you want is not what is given, and it's okay to try something different. So what I was offered, I really enjoyed that experience, being a civic engagement intern, working with student volunteers and working in the general community of San Diego area, and so that was really aligned with my volunteer experience. So remember that employers want to match you with your skills, and so I was happy that at least I had a job.
What was the question?
I guess for your experiences, how did you get to find those positions?
Oh, okay. So I got my first job at 64 Degrees just through little flyers that the dining halls had, and I thought, hey, I guess I can use some money, use a job. So I applied, and I got placed in 64. But then I quit to work at the calling center, which was a position that I heard about through word of mouth. And then I got my jobs at Oasis through 2Excel, actually. I was venting about the calling center job, and Agustin, who unfortunately isn't here anymore, offered me some positions at Oasis. And starting from there, I went further into Oasis positions. So I started out as an OLC mentor, and now I'm 2Excel, and I'm still working study jams. So if any of you students are at Oasis during study jams, I'm at the front. And for current and past internships, I guess the best way that I got some exposure to them was just having really good relationships with professors. So I took the screenwriting class last spring, and for each internship that he heard about, he would shoot it then to me, and then I would decide whether or not I would want to apply, but I applied to each one that he sent me, and I was able to get each one.
Cool. So I think a common theme that I've been hearing from both of you is just putting yourself out there and really continuing to have conversations with the people you're surrounded in hopes that opportunities arise. if that's what I'm hearing correctly. So I guess, do you have any tips on how to approach people, or like the people you know, and how to ask if there are opportunities for them to find internships or jobs and stuff?
I think building your network is important, as you said, putting yourself out there, but also preparing yourself for when those opportunities present themselves. So even if you're not in the market for a job, I think what you need to do is build your resume when you're not looking for a job. Because I think creating this resume and starting to get yourself ready for when those opportunities present yourself to you, you're ready, and you'll have a lot of things as a student that you're juggling. And so this is one thing that you can prepare when you're not busy, and then continually revise so that it meets the minimum requirements. But definitely start to get yourself ready if you're interested in a job.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And unfortunately, I don't have much to add. So
That's all good. That's all good. No, honestly, I think that's really good to hear. Especially like, I remember back my first year, someone said like, if you're not networking, you're not working. And definitely like knowing how to expand your like really, like I said, put yourself out there, and like, you know, being ready for when those opportunities arise. So I know that for a lot of students, a lot of concern is like time management, with being a student and working and having to have an internship and being involved in all these organizations. So do you have any suggestions, tips, or sharing your own experience on what you did to make sure that you stayed, you know, focused on academics, because that's what we're here for, while also gaining those experiences that were valuable to your future?
So I guess for me, I'm one of those weird college students that didn't use planners or anything. And I just started using the calendar on my phone this year, actually. You know, I started doing it 4 years late, but I made it this far. But I guess for me, in terms of time management, I try to do what I'm here for first. So, for example, I'm a student first. It's why I'm here at UCSC, so I make sure that all my academic obligations are finished first, and then I start focusing on my actual job, and then I focus on internships. And I guess it's just a matter of prioritizing, staying on top of everything. And I'm also one of those weird students that procrastinates like 3 weeks before the assignment is due. So then, you know, I'm always, even though I do procrastinate, I still am always ahead. You know, an assignment can be due like a month into the quarter, and, you know, week 3, it's like already done. So, yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I'm actually quite the opposite. I am a planner. I try to be very organized, and sometimes it has its downfalls. But what I wanted to add about that is, so as we start to think about those potential interviews that come up, creating those narratives for yourself and starting to build your voice about how you want to respond to those common questions that may be asked. And so Josue mentioned that he uses time management. And so a basic question that could be asked is, you know, how do you prioritize your projects? And so you can actually turn this into a skill on your resume, for example. So as a student, I always use a planner or time management app on my phone to organize my responsibilities and meet deadlines. So even these skills as a student, you're building the things that you need to be listing on resumes. You just need to think about them and craft them in a way that you'll be able to list them on your resume.
Yeah, and I think that's really, for both of you, very nice that there were both perspectives of both the person who doesn't necessarily use a planner and then someone who is very planning oriented, to know that regardless of whatever your work style is like, you can contribute something to a workplace, and just finding that framework of how to not necessarily sell yourself, but I guess how to make it sound like you offer something that others don't have per se. So I guess, like, do you have any other tips on, like, how that would work for yourself? Like, how you in the past have shared your own skills, and, like, how to, I guess, word things on, like, examples of how you would word things on how you would, on those interview types of questions, like, sell yourself, per se.
So one tip that I have is going back to creating your resume, crafting an employment job folder to build your resume experience. So a lot of common concern is I don't have enough work experience to put on a resume. However, if you volunteer, you are learning a lot of things. For example, I once volunteered for a conference, and one task I completed was sorting computers and matching them with projectors. These were going to be used the day of the conference event, and they needed to be organized, checked, and double-checked so they could be dropped into the presentation rooms for the conference. So I did all of this, checked off the list, bundled them together, put them in a cart. This was something I had never done, but it can be listed as a skill, such as attention to detail. So it's things like that that you have to craft that narrative for yourself. And then a second example, I used a program to print poster-sized posters for the conference, and so I had never used that particular program before. It was a very large printer, 36 by 48 posters were printed, and so once they were completed and rolled up, they were going to be used at the conference. So this skill is a skill that can transfer as adaptability and willingness to learn. So those are just a couple examples.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and to add on to that, even during student projects, we have to mess with Microsoft Word and Excel, and the more we mess around with them, the better with those programs that we get. And technology is becoming more and more of a big thing to be knowledgeable about. And I guess for me, I'm very social, very out there, so I translate being the funny guy into saying, oh, I have social skills. I can walk up to a customer or a client or whatever, whoever it is, and start a conversation and keep the conversation going, and not have to worry about putting my foot in my mouth or having awkward silences or anything like that.
Cool. And I think that's what's really nice to know, is that regardless of what our skill sets are, we each have something to bring to the table, whether it is for a job that we're interested in or an internship. And I think something that was really crucial for me to understand, especially when I was in my job search, was understanding that my path doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like someone else. Like, even if they get the job or internship before me, it's my opportunity to continue growing and building my resume so that when I am ready, or like in the future, to continue, that I need to focus on my own path and like not necessarily compare myself all the time. So in your own experience, like, how has that been for you? Whether you have those friends that you apply for similar jobs for, is there like tips you have for those students who don't always find the success?
That is a really difficult question. But I think for me, my personal mantra, my motto, is basically to bring others along with me. And so when someone else gets a job that perhaps I had applied for, I'm happy for that person, especially if I know them. I know we're all deserving of something. And if it wasn't my opportunity this particular time, then I'm very optimistic that something else is coming around the corner for me that is well suited for me. So I like to think of it in terms of bringing others along with us, and sharing those experiences with them, because we're all growing. And we all grow differently. And as I mentioned, the previous job I did not get. I was, somewhat disappointed, but I was excited for those that received. And then I got a second chance. So you never know what could be coming around the corner.
Yeah, likewise. Even at Oasis, there have been some jobs that I applied for that I unfortunately wasn't able to get. But there were other positions that I got instead. So in terms of, applying with friends, always be humble, be happy for those who do get them, even if you don't, just because, jealousy is a complex emotion to deal with. But yeah, never give up and keep trying, because there's always going to be something around the corner that's waiting. But yeah.
And I think like something for me that I've also learned is that regardless of like failures and stuff, I'll always learn something out of it, and then continue, like, keep on thriving, so that was just something to share with the students, like, for those who don't always feel so successful, like, just to know that everyone goes through their own processes, but to continue to know that it doesn't stop there. The process could keep going. You never know what opportunities will arise, but just to continue looking for those jobs and internships, because it is hard sometimes, but there are things available. So I guess like as we're continuing to finish up our conversation, are there any like final suggestions, tips, or like resources that you want to suggest to the students?
One additional tip that I did want to add was during the application process, we mentioned briefly reference letters or people who could speak on your behalf. So going back to if you volunteer or if you're in organizations, things that you may be involved in, ask if there's a reference letter or certificate that can be provided for your service, or ask if they would consider being a reference for you in the future. And I would also suggest creating a document in your employment folder to create a running reference list, something that you will continue to add to. Be sure to get the information from the reference, the details such as name, address, telephone number, email, company, and the department they work for, basically how you know them. And if you can get a business card, that will normally contain all this information. When you use someone as a reference also, and maybe some time has lapsed, give them a courteous notice in advance and send them your resume and the position you are applying for, and let them know you have listed them as a reference and they may be contacted on your behalf. And that's just a tip that I've learned from some of my own experience with applications.
That's really dope. I never thought of that, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I never thought of that either. I should probably make a list too.
Yeah.
See how long or short it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Any tips for me? I guess a big one for me would be not to take it personally if unfortunately you don't get a job or internship that you were really hoping to get. It's not that you weren't good enough. It's probably just that they were looking for something else, or that they were looking for another type of work style or something or other. But it's usually never personal. And I know it's really easy too, because it's easy to, look back at yourself and say like, I wasn't good enough, so I didn't get the job. But, just keep digging, you'll find what you need. I actually remember before my freshman year started, I was applying to a McDonald's during the summer because I needed a job to save up, and I didn't get it. And I was like, I didn't even get a job at McDonald's. Like, what the hell is going on? But eventually I did get a retail job near my house, and it was actually closer than the McDonald's was. So, like I said before, just keep trying, keep digging. You never know when you'll find what it is you're looking for.
Cool. So is there anything else that we would like to finish up with, or do we feel like we've expanded or exposed everything we had to share?
I think one other tip that maybe might be helpful is, and not every employment process is going to ask for this, but just as you prepare your professional and business resume for the future, thinking about a cover letter, and so crafting a draft of that. Some positions do ask for this, and so if you again are proactive and do this before you apply for a job, there are templates out there where you can start to work on what does a cover letter look like, what will it ask, and I believe it takes away the stress and anxiety of having to do it on the fly, especially if it's for the first time. So remember that it's a document that will continue to change as you gain experience, the same as the resume, it will be built. And a good suggestion is that for each job you apply for, that you tailor the cover letter and resume. Don't use a blanket copy. In other words, the same one for everything, because you want to highlight the skills needed for that specific job that you have the actual experience in.
Cool. So again, I want to thank you both for being a part of our podcast today, to highlight some of the resources that there are on campus for you. Know that there is things like Port Triton to help you find jobs both on and off campus, internships, volunteerships, part-time, full-time, whether they take work study or not, they have those kind of filters that can help you find those things, as well as places like the Career Services Center where they do resume building workshops. You can meet with a peer mentor, peer success. I forget what they call them, but like the peer career advisors and stuff like that, as well as the staff there at the Career Service Center are very welcoming in helping you build your resume, do mock interviews. They do welcome sometimes some businesses just to give like more information sessions, and those could be, again, expanding your network and stuff like that. So are there any other things about stuff on campus? Or
I think also maybe your personal networks, having someone review those with you. They may even enlighten you about something you've forgotten that you did. And so if you are trying to build those relationships with your networks, sometimes they are willing to help you as well in the job search.
And another thing is, it's like a really easy thing. Just check your emails. That's usually how professors and other resources, disperse, for lack of a better word, the information on internships and jobs. Always check. I remember my freshman, second year, I didn't really check my emails. So on my phone, the mail app had like 20-something thousand unread emails, which I had to clear out, and it was bad. But now I check it every other hour just because I never know what I'll find. And that's actually how I was able to find out about the jobs and internships that I've had in the past. So, yeah.
Cool. So again, thank you both for being here today. Just to remind you of some of the things that are coming up this quarter, our next event is on Tuesday, May 1st from 5 to 7 p.m. in the multi-purpose room. It's the first gen event. It's called Paving the Way to Pay It Forward. To RSVP, you want to go to bit.ly/firstgen, so that's FIRSTGEN, spring 2018. So that'll be the last first gen event of the quarter, as well as on Friday, May 11th from 2:30 to 5 p.m. we will be having our first annual second year experience end of the year celebration. There's going to be free food, there's going to be opportunities for some free stuff, as well as just to celebrate the pilot year of our 2Connect program in conjunction with 2Excel. So to RSVP for that, you want to go to bit.ly/SYE Banquet 2018. All of this information is on the newsletters that you get every week, so make sure you check that, as well as to sign up for job and mentoring and any other resources and events that are coming up. If you have any questions, please feel free to email 2Connect, that's the number 2connect.ucsd@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.